Today we're going to talk about our railroad crossing flasher in a box, but this is quite different than what you've seen before. In the previous video, of course, many of you are customers. We're using our signal controller inside to control the flashing. But I received an email from a customer who had a different kind of flasher. I believe this is German, it's certainly European, and there are two lights. There's a red and a yellow LED in here, and there are only two wires. And he said, how do I hook it up to your signal controller? Well, I said, I'm not really sure, but why don't you send me a couple samples and we'll work on it. And in fact, what it is just two LEDs wired backwards to each other. So when the polarity for the two wires is in one direction, well, there are two wires, they're magnet wire connecting us, pretty fine. But there are two wires, and when the polarity is in one direction, the red light will go on, and when the polarity is reversed, the yellow light will go on. So I've already mounted one and I've set this up, so I'm going to kind of go through it. But what this also allowed us to do is introduce and talk about our relay adapter board. Now we've been selling these four relay boards for about a year, and we just buy these as they are and remarket them. And the idea was you could connect our precision detector in here. The precision detector sensor in the board circuitry, while it gets power of 12 volts, the onboard circuit's only 2.8 volts. If I get into the weeds here, I apologize. The relay board runs at 12 volts. And so there was an incompatibility on the input side. So we provided resistors and a diode to help facilitate that. But it was a little bit awkward. So we took an opportunity last month and designed a relay adapter board that simply plugs in to the existing terminal. And this, you power here, plus and minus 12 volts, and then it has four connectors, and you just run the signal wire, the yellow signal wire, right in here, and it works great. And it always works. It's foolproof, essentially. So we really wanted to have a very reliable product. And when this crossing challenge came up, we could have written some software to do it, but I thought this is a great opportunity to try relay in a box. And so what we've done, so here's what's going to happen. Let me put this aside for a second. The idea here is usually we only have two sensors. Today we have four, and the idea is that from either direction, when the train comes along the track, it'll hit the first sensor and turn the light on, and it'll be yellow. I'll get more into how we set up the relay to do that in a minute, but the operation is it comes across and becomes yellow. So I'm going to use this little sponge block and come in from here and block the first sensor, and you can see that the light turns on and changes and is yellow. And I'll come in from the other side, and it also is yellow. So the first sensor on either side sets the crossing signal to yellow, which is correct. That's the operational behavior that we want. As the train progresses, and these two sensors would be spread out, I had to get it all into this box. So imagine this is a couple of feet down the track, and the second sensors are a little bit closer in. So the train comes along. Now there's a warning that there's a train coming. That's the yellow signal. As the train progresses, it hits the next sensor. The light changes red, which is the behavior we want. The train keeps coming along, and so now we have both of these red. The train is still in the crossing zone. As soon as it passes that sensor, the light changes back to yellow, and when the train exits the zone, the light goes off. Now I have all of these set for immediate response. I don't have the timeout set on, but you can imagine that as the train comes in, the light goes on, turns red, stays red, and then when the train gets a little bit further on, you could have the yellow stay on and persist a little bit longer. Okay, so it took a couple of minutes to think through exactly what we want the four relays to do. So I'll put it here, and then we'll open up the box and show you how we did it. So so we have four independent relays. Now, as I mentioned, we want to change the color, which means we have to reverse the polarity. So what we were going to do is these relay 3 and relay 4, we want to operate as one, and that gives us a double pole, double throw switch. Each of these has a common, and two sides. So this will just flip the polarity. Well, that means we want both of these relays to act together. So as you'll see inside the box, we have the input for both 3 and 4 connected together and routed to these two sensors. So when these sensors go, it turns these relays on, which flips the polarity. If there's no train, none of the relays are on. So it defaults to yellow as a standard. Now, what we have done with the other sensors, these are tied together and these are tied together, so just using a single common signal wire. The first thing that we want to do is have just the first relay just turn the power on. So the circuit from the light to the power that lights it is disconnected, but it goes through this relay. So as soon as this relay is hit, the relay activates, connects the power, and the light goes on. Oops, I went too far. Now, let's say that the train passes this one and enters the red zone, but the train is short and it's already bypassed this sensor. So this sensor would deactivate as it's here. But what we've done is we've got a third relay, and so we connected these two to this other relay. And so if the logic is, if either of these sensors goes off, turn either of these relays on, and that will connect the circuit for power. Then separately, only if these two, which are also connected to 3 and 4, if it gets to there, just reverse the polarity. So that's how it works. So let me just demonstrate one more time. Pull this aside. The first relay turns the power on, connects the circuit. The default polarity is yellow. The next detector is fired. It also turns the power on. So if I move this away from the sensor is not on now, but this sensor is keeping the power on. And it's reversing the polarity, and so forth all the way down. All right, so a lot of wires, but the circuit, and we provide the wiring diagram and everything, but it's really simple. We're using our power module. You see the 4 relays. The red light is the power on, and you can see, let me tilt this up just a little bit, you can see our relay detector adapter board. And I'm going to just run my hand in front of the sensor so you can watch the relays. So that relay, okay, see that relay is going on. That just turns power on. Now, that may stay on. The next 3 relays turn on because we want it to reverse the polarity so that it did change to red. And we want it to be another place where it turns and connects the circuit. And it goes along, goes along, goes along, exits the zone, and then all the relays are off. So pretty cool. We're really excited about that. So we're going to pack this up and ship this back to the customer. I think he has 3 or 4 of these crossing setups that he wants to do. But that's the crossing in a box, flasher in a box, with our new, with running just on a relay, no signal controller, with the detector adapter board built into it. Thanks very much for watching.